So in the non-dual traditions, there's a lot of talk about the observer and the observed being one. In other words, what you are observing right now, let's say you're observing your phone or your laptop, there's one observing it, right? You are observing the phone. So there's you, then there's the phone. And what happens is we think that then between me and the phone, there's a faculty of perception. So in other words, I am here inside, somewhere inside the head. I look through a faculty of perception, which is what we would call the eyes, and then I perceive a phone or a video. And what we're saying in the non-dual traditions is there is no I that has a faculty of perceiving that perceives the phone that is separate from that process. So in other words, the I, the perceiving, and the phone, or I that perceives an object, they're not separate. So there's not really an I that is perceiving a phone. The faculty of perceiving, the object that is perceived, and the I that perceives it are the exact same thing. Let me elaborate a bit further. The faculty of perception is itself something that never perceives the object that we actually perceive. The thing that we see is color, if we're talking seeing. The thing that we see is color, and the color that we see is not created by the object. So all color is an experience created by the mind. The mind creates color. Things don't have color. So when we see something, we're basically seeing our own mind. We're not seeing a color. Now, the argument is that, yes, okay, we might only be seeing color, but there must be something there giving off the color. Like there must be something behind the color that is there, that is outside the mind. I'm just catching you all up briefly. We're going to go a bit deeper. Basically, we're saying it's not. We're not going to go into too much detail here. I've done videos on this in the past. Maybe my editor can link some of the videos on this video. We want to just kind of recap this. There isn't something. This is what we're saying in the non-dual traditions, that yes, we think that there's something there giving the color, but there's not. The color's coming from the mind. If we were to touch the object, we feel a sensation. The sensation doesn't come from the object. The sensation is a pure perception. And what we're saying is that the perceptionness, right, the faculty of perceiving, is actually what the object is made of. So instead of thinking I perceive an object, there's I perceive, and the perceiving, it never goes into object. The perceiving takes the shape of the object. This is what we're saying in the non-dual traditions. And what I'm saying now is that the perceiver, the one that thinks it perceives, is also not a part of, is also a part of the object land. So we're saying that the object's not there, it's only perceiving. What I'm saying is the object that perceives is not there, there's only perceiving. And once we see this, we basically say, okay, so there's no three-way system. I don't perceive an object, there is just perceiving, with nothing perceiving it. You see? And what happens is we take this limited sense of perception that I am a perceiver, I am a witness, and we realize there is no witness to experience. The witness has to start and end at some point. Starts here, ends at the object. There is no witness to the experience. Nothing's witnessing it, you see? There's no three-way street. There's no center of me that is looking outwards at the object, or center of me that is perceiving. So I perceive. I don't perceive. Perception is. And perception isn't really perception in the way that we think it is. This basically means that there's no witness to experience. There's no experiencer that has an experience. Experience, object, and the I that experiences it, they're the same thing. They are not separate. So there's no center point of experience. And when we see this, it takes away our sense of limitation. It takes away our sense of, I wouldn't say it takes away the sense of individuality completely, because individuality is not something necessary to remove. It takes away our sense of being separate. It takes away our sense of being separate from experience. And it's only in separation that we find suffering. We find suffering when there's an I that's individual, that perceives from inside the body, that looks out of its eyes, sees a separate object. We do that when we expand what that means, because that obviously there's not just always the what makes suffering happen. When we take that belief and expand it to the rest of our lives, we see separate people, we become victims, they become perpetrators, and we start to develop this sense of duality, which is legit. But when we believe duality is real, that's when we suffer. That's what creates separation. So duality is okay. Duality is fine. Duality is the capacity for me to intelligently know I am not separate from this experience. Simply is. There's no me inside the head perceiving an external object. There's just what is, and it's not separate. There's no other way to say it other than there isn't separate parts to it. But I can enter the dimension of understanding that there is separate parts to it, and this is what gives rise to the story of experience. And the story of experience is usually what we're trying to escape. We're usually trying to escape the story. Don't want to be in the story. All the enlightened people are outside of the story. They don't get involved. They don't suffer. The suffering means if I'm suffering, it means I'm in the story. No. This is where we need to develop further intelligence, further sophistication. There's no enlightened people outside the story. There's no inside or outside. You see, the dimensions don't take place inside or outside anything. So we can be in the story, just like we watch a movie and we're in the story, but we're not really in the story. You see what I mean? But we can involve ourselves in it and enjoy it. This is a necessary capacity to develop, is the capacity to be multidimensional. Sounds exotic, but it simply means 1 minute you could be having a conversation like this. The next minute you could be walking the dog and cleaning up its dog shit. Then the next minute you could be having conversation about the weather with the neighbor. And yes, you're talking about the weather. That also implies that this separation. Oh, there's duality. We're talking about the weather. The weather means that the weather means that I'm here, the weather's up there, and the things that do, and I feel temperature, and the temperature's separate from me, and this person's separate from me. Yes, all that exists in duality. That's a dimension that we can experience. But true intelligence doesn't get lost in the duality. So you can be basically in non-duality, if you want to call it that, while being in duality, having a conversation, because you're not really in either of them. So it's very dual to think of this duality and non-duality. If we separate the two, that's what creates true duality. So what we're really looking for is to realize that the I that is perceiving is a part of the story that we want to kind of remove, in a sense. We want to realize isn't really there. But then the I that's in the story actually becomes also what we are, and it's very legitimate to start to engage with that. So yes and no. The observer of experience isn't really there, but the observer of experience could also be considered a part of reality. So the crux that I'm sharing here, the thing that we want to really see, is that first we take the process of essentially dismantling the fabric of our current perception, that I perceive an object, this three-way compartment system, and we want to realize there is no object that I perceive. Then we are capable of actually going into this realm of objects again without getting lost in them. But until we fully digest and process this understanding that there is no I inside the head perceiving outside of myself, and therefore we see separation. Before we do this, we need to come to realize and ground ourselves in this understanding of this complete experience, that experience is complete. So complete, it's just, there's no other way to put it other than it's just so complete. There's nothing else to be separate from it to ever consider that there would be even duality. And this is the beauty of this, is that you then develop an intelligence to comprehend paradoxes. You develop an intelligence to comprehend What shouldn't usually be comprehended is the fact that this is and isn't at the same time. And what we're really experiencing is that even though nothing has ever been separate or could ever be separate, we're somehow able to delve into that, to actually experience duality and enjoy that. It's an absolute miracle. So this is what is happening, is a miracle. And this is a taste of that process so that we can further develop it. I have a free community where we can actually talk about this for free. You can ask me any questions that you want. I do sessions every 2 weeks, and they're for an hour long. We can go over if it's necessary. But it's a beautiful place to be. I vouch for it. I hope to see you there. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care. Bye.